Good evening, Moonprincess here, and tonight we're going to talk about a very, very heavy subject. So let's get into it. I know it's going to make some people uncomfortable, probably, but it's something that I'm passionate about talking about, since it's something that I didn't know about until I got to college, and I was really astounded by that fact. So if you don't know about it, now you're gonna know. So the Tuskegee syphilis experiment. Tuskegee syphilis experiment. This took place in Macon, Alabama, from 1932 to 1972. The study was launched by Dr. Heller, who was Assistant Surgeon General in the Services of Venereal Disease Section. He later became Division Chief. It was initially supposed to last 6 to 8 months. It ended up being a 40-year study observing syphilis in African American men. Tuskegee's study of untreated syphilis in the African American male. It was a study that literally did nothing to provide treatment to these men. Actually, the opposite. 600 men took part in the study. 399 acted as the experimental group, with 201 serving as control group. Participants were selected from the Tuskegee, Alabama, a population which housed the highest rate of syphilis in the U.S. At the time of the study, majority of these men were lower income farmers and like sharecroppers, and possessed very little education, many being unable to read. This put them at a major disadvantage. Researchers enticed participants, offering medical and survivor insurance. They would be provided medical exams, transportation, free meals, and offered treatment for minor maladies. They were also promised money would be provided to their loved ones if they died. No treatment was offered. When treatment became readily available, the study chose not to inform participants of their options. The experiment was carried out by the USPHS, or United States Public Health Services. Participants were told by researchers that they were being treated for bad blood, meaning for treatment for things such as anemia, fatigue, and syphilis, though no real treatment was actually being provided to the men involved in the study. In the study, they administered blood tests, x-rays, spinal taps, which, by the way, are very, very painful, and autopsies on participants. It did not seek to cure or research syphilis in any meaningful way other than, sorry, it makes me very mad, but to observe its natural progression in the population of African American men. So yes, this is a true crime case if you didn't realize at this point. It was cruel and racist, providing no benefit to society or to the men themselves who could have been helped, but were instead mistreated by researchers. The study is characterized as non-therapeutic experiment. Called a study. Men in the study were treated like guinea pigs. Deprived of treatment, some even died from the effects of the disease. Rather, they chose not to treat participants because the study served to watch them suffer, not to gain any knowledge or insight into treating the disease. The study was exasperated mistrust in healthcare. Research study participation in standard medical care for African Americans even to this day. Given the study went on into the 70s, this is clearly understandable. While when the study began, there was no cure or medication for the disease. By 1947, again, this started in the 30s, think about that, penicillin was established as standard medicine for the treatment for it, which was never used in this study, nor were participants made aware of the available treatment option. The study had been conducted for 15 years at this point and would go on for another 25 years without providing these men with real treatment. According to researchers, the penicillin treatment was intentionally withheld from the men participating in the syphilis study, justifying penicillin might prove harmful to the men. In the syphilis study, saying they did not know when they would have this opportunity again. It makes me so angry. Which is basically another way of saying another way of saying once you know, I can't torture you. Basically, that's what they're saying. By the time the study was shut down, 74 survivors of the study were unable to be treated with penicillin due to their age and the risk it posed for them. Men who could have been treated, but then no longer could. The study was still going even after the Declaration of Helsinki had been issued by the World Health Organization in 1964. In 1966, a venereal disease investigator named Peter Buxton reached out to the CDC expressing concerns about the study. He began sending out letters to the CDC. November 1968, he is quoted as saying, "I have grave moral doubts as to the propriety of this study." The CDC failed to respond for years, so by 1972, why did you wait that long, asshole? That's my own commentary, obviously. He contacted Associated Press reporter Gene Heller on July 25th, 1972, a reporter from Associated Press, Gene Heller, published articles exposing the disturbing study. His articles were in the New York Times and the Washington Post, both of which should be accessible to you online if you want to look at it. Within 3 months of its publication, the study was shut down, given the response from the general public, who was outraged by this deplorable, horrifying, reprehensible experiment. A class action lawsuit was filed by attorney Fred Gray in 1973 on behalf of the men who took part in the study, their wives, and their children. The settlement led to $9 million going towards the study participants and their families. May 16th, 1997, Bill Clinton issued a formal apology for the study. The United States government did something that was wrong, deeply, profoundly, morally wrong, and I am sorry. Following the study's conclusion, the National Research Act was put forth to protect and keep its subjects in medical research. It was passed in Congress in 1974. Herndon Glass, a survivor of the study, passed away in 2004 at the age of 96. African Americans, Men's Health, and Tuskegee. By the time the study was forced to an end, very few participants were still alive and dozens had wives and offspring who developed the disease. Medical historian Ellen Brand said, in 1978, in retrospect, the Tuskegee study revealed more about the pathology of racism than the pathology of syphilis, more about the nature of scientific inquiry than the nature of the disease process. The degree of deception and the damages have been severely underestimated. Medical mistrust thus comes as no surprise, according to a report by the Tuskegee Syphilis Study Legacy Committee in 1996. The The study continues to cast a long shadow over the relationship between African Americans and the biomedical professionals and was a significant factor in the low participation of African Americans in clinical trials, organ donation efforts, and routine preventative care. Research suggests healthcare mistrust influences contribute to worsening outcomes for African Americans' mental health and well-being. Health inequities influenced by African American men's reluctance, mistrust of the healthcare system, and also African American just have worse outcomes in general, but it's a combination. And it is something we need to study more, but why would someone want you to study anything involving them if this is how they get treated? So, anyways, this to me is incredibly important, and I really have wanted to talk about it. So, I hope you not necessarily enjoyed this video, but found it important and informative, and feel like you benefited from listening to it, even if you already knew some of it.